The Kulathi had never known defeat. Across 17 star systems, their chitinous fleets had crushed resistance with methodical precision. Their greatest weapon wasn't plasma cannons or singularity bombs, it was the Void Serpent, a creature harvested from the event horizon of a dying black hole. A being of pure entropy that unraveled molecular bonds with its mere presence. When humanity refused to surrender their colonies in the Cygnus Arm, the Kulathi released 3 Void Serpents on the mining settlement of Kepler 442b. The creatures descended like ribbons of liquid darkness, and everything they touched simply ceased to exist. 17,000 humans evaporated in moments. Buildings crumbled to quantum dust. The atmosphere itself began to thin. Commander Vexith watched from orbit with satisfaction, his 4 compound eyes glittering. This would send a message. Humans would learn fear. But then the sensors detected something impossible. One human remained alive in the devastation zone, a single thermal signature, moving deliberately toward the nearest serpent. Vexith leaned closer to the display, mandibles clicking in confusion. The human, records identified her as Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist, was walking directly at the creature that had just annihilated her entire research team. "She's in shock," his tactical officer suggested. Prey response. Neurological collapse, but Dr. Chen wasn't stumbling. She was striding with purpose, her environmental suit's joints moving with deliberate calm. In her hand she carried something, a cylindrical device, a plasma cutter repurposed. The Void Serpent sensed her approach and twisted through the air, its form constantly shifting between dimensions. Where it passed, reality screamed. The creature lunged. Chen fired the plasma cutter not at the serpent but at a nearby storage tank marked with radiation warnings. The tank erupted in a brilliant flash. The serpent, attracted to the sudden energy release, dove into the explosion, and Chen dove with it. Vexith's entire bridge crew fell silent as they watched the human's biosigns spike and then stabilize. When the flames cleared, Chen stood within arm's length of the serpent. It coiled around her, and her suit began to dissolve. But she'd modified it, reinforced it with experimental quantum shielding from her lab. It bought her 30 seconds. 30 seconds was all she needed. Chen pulled a pressurized container from her belt, a sample cylinder used for collecting extremophile organisms. With movements practiced from 1,000 field collections, she triggered the magnetic containment field and thrust it directly into the serpent's core. The creature shrieked across dimensions that had no sound. It convulsed, writhing, but the containment field held. Chen began compressing the field, forcing the impossible being into an impossible space. The serpent fractured, split its entropy form, condensing into something almost physical. Then Chen did something that made every Kulathi on the fleet recoil in horror. She opened her helmet. The thin atmosphere of Kepler 442b rushed in, barely breathable. The serpent's emanations should have unraveled her DNA instantly. But humans, the Kulathi were learning, had brought their own horrors from Earth. Chen had spent 5 years studying extremophiles in radioactive exclusion zones. Her body carried modifications, both technological and biological, that let her survive where others couldn't. She brought the container to her mouth and consumed the serpent's condensed matter, not metaphorically, not symbolically. She actually ate it. The creature's essence burned down her throat like swallowing a sun and a void simultaneously. Her body convulsed. Blood vessels burst in her eyes. But her modified biology, enhanced with archaeal proteins and radiation-resistant tardigrade genes, processed what would kill any other known species. Chen's eyes, when they opened, reflected stars that didn't exist in normal space. She looked up at the Kulathi fleet and smiled with teeth that now contained trace elements of event horizon matter. Then she spoke, her voice somehow carrying across the vacuum, perhaps transmitted through the quantum entanglement she'd just created with the serpent. "You brought 3 of these things. Where are the other 2? Within the hour, Chen had tracked and consumed the remaining Void Serpents. Each one made her stronger, more attuned to the spaces between dimensions. The Kulathi watched in paralyzed fascination as their ultimate weapon became, impossibly, human sustenance. Vexith received the emergency transmission from the Kulathi High Council 30 minutes later. "Withdraw immediately. Cease all hostile operations against human territories. New species classification. Apex predator. Diplomatic status do not provoke." But the command came too late. Chen stood now in the vacuum of space without a suit, her body having adapted in ways that violated every known principle of biology. She placed her hand against the hull of Vexith's flagship, and he felt the entropy seeping through the quantum-sealed armor. "Tell your people," she said, her voice resonating through dimensions, "that humans don't just survive what kills us, we acquire a taste for it." The Qulathi fleet jumped to hyperspace within minutes, their 17-system empire in full retreat. The war, which had lasted 3 years and claimed millions, ended in a single day. Back on Earth, when the scientific community demanded to know how Chen survived, she simply shrugged. "We're omnivores. We've built our entire civilization on figuring out how to safely eat things that initially tried to kill us. Pufferfish, cassava, kidney beans. Why should cosmic horror be any different? The galaxy would learn what humans had always known. The most dangerous predator isn't the one with the sharpest teeth, but the one curious enough to wonder what you taste like, and hungry enough to find out."